Hey, you guys, I'm Hannah Judson, and I'm a singer songwriter. And a friend of mine was saying the other day that I should get on TikTok and start to talk about my current project, which is a record that I recorded and I'm releasing. It's releasing soon. And I've been on TikTok for a while, which has been fun. And I've just sort of, it's all been a big experiment. And I've like posted some photographs, I've posted some videos, I've made a video or two for TikTok, but I haven't showed up live. So this is the very first time I'm doing this. And I'm like seeing how it works, seeing how it all goes. So I had a couple thoughts about what I wanted to talk today about right now. And the first thing is, I wanted to come onto TikTok and get used to speaking into the camera this particular way, which is kind of weird, but it's also kind of fun. I know people are out there. But so this friend of mine was saying you should get onto TikTok and you should tell people about your projects because they're super interesting. And I've always had a hard time talking about them. Like, I write songs. Should I talk about my process? Maybe I will one day. I have a small record label I run with two colleagues out of California. Maybe I could talk about what goes into running a small record label and what we do there. That could be kind of interesting. I could talk about booking tours, how that works, what's behind the scenes there, but letting people in behind the scenes. So anyway, I've been thinking a little bit about the sorts of things that interest me, that might interest you, that I could talk about. But first I wanted to just say like who I am, which is complicated. To sum up in a sentence or phrase or a bite. So who I am a singer-songwriter. I am also an executive coach and a mental health coach. I help people. I like working with people. That's one of the things that I am doing. I also teach. I'm a teacher. And all of that stuff goes on in the background, but I'm also a creative person. And I write short stories, I write poems, and I write songs. And the thing that drew me into songwriting initially when I was, years ago, when I was playing my guitar, I was playing keyboards, were the stories that get told using language with music. That's the thing that I like. I love music, but I love words. I love the power of the words. I love the way we use words to hit targets, the way we use words to influence people, the power of it, and even the power of what we think before we speak. Not everything is just the spoken word or the word out in the world. There's also all the words in your head, all the thinking that's going on in there. And I think that it's all kind of like one big continuum, how we think and talk to ourselves and talk to other people in our heads, how we allow it to come out, and what we do with the words once they come out. Some of us are artists, so we naturally turn our words into works of art. Some of us are conversationalists, and so we get involved in talking to people. Some people are political by nature, and they get into arguing points and winning arguments and controlling people through words. And that's actually something I want to loop back around to. But anyway, that's a little bit about where I'm coming from as a songwriter and as an artist, is that I love language, I love books, and I think something that I try to do is always have a really good book in my hand. I am a member of my local public library, which is a fantastic thing because they'll get you books. You tell them what book you're looking for, and they go get it, and then they bring it to you, which is a cool thing. So I totally recommend joining your public library if you haven't yet. Library card, because one book leads to the next, and books are another way to have these words that I'm talking about, how to bring them into your thinking, bring these thoughts and conversations and ideas into your head. And I think it's really important to read good books and to have good conversations. Again, to have that good language going on, that it's like nourishing, right? It's like nourishment. It's like you want to eat good food. You want to eat healthy food. You also want to have healthy ideas. And I think right now, in this day and time, this time, when we are online all the time, people are super anxious all the time. People are scrolling. I think this is like in the era of scrolling, people just scrolling through looking for dopamine hits. I think that we encounter a lot of really bad ideas online, and I'm not trying to be judgy about that. I'm trying to just say what's out there and what we're eating, right? We're eating some really bad words and ideas, and it's confusing because some bad ideas are presented as good ones. They're presented as trendy or hip or powerful, and so we eat it up. And I think that we need to be really, really judicious and careful about what we listen to in terms of music, who we talk to, who we let into our lives, and what we believe and what we say to ourselves. And I'm talking about the internal dialogue. I think that's super important stuff. But anyway, so I wanted to, TikTok is telling me stuff. I've never done this before, so whatever. Okay, now it's gone away. So I wanted to introduce myself, so that was probably a little bit of an introduction. And the reason why I'm experimenting with TikTok in the first place is because I'm about to release on Boneyard Records my next album. It'll be my 4th solo album. It's called, maybe my 3rd. I forget the numbers now. Maybe my 3rd solo album. It's called Satellites Grace the Sky Like Tumbleweeds. And most of the songs, I wrote them during the pandemic when we were all pretty isolated. And I was living in French at the time. Sorry, I'm reading somebody's comment. Yes, I speak French, but not on TikTok. I'm not going to start speaking French on TikTok, but we can speak French later. Julian asks that, so yay. But I did want to say, so I was writing these songs in the middle of the pandemic, and the pandemic wasn't just like one straight shot. We went through seasons of it, and initially we were in lockdown and it was okay, and then we had different rules and regulations to follow. I was in France throughout the entire pandemic, and we were on such serious lockdowns where you couldn't leave for more than 1 kilometer away from your house. But anyway, most of these songs I wrote during that period of time, and they reflect different things I was thinking about. And as time went on, I started to see mental health problems arising in the world and amongst people I knew, maybe even myself, and people I was working with. Just, it got harder and harder, and it's not over yet in a weird way. We're going to recover from that for the rest of our lives. So these songs tackle some of those things that were coming up. Satellites Grace the Sky with Tumbleweeds. So I worked on them for a long time. I recorded them, and I finished. It took a long time to record, but I recorded them with Pajaro Kanzani, who's an amazing producer and is a neighbor of mine in France, lives down the road. And we worked in his studio, and we worked long and hard, and it took a while to really kind of wrap this up and finish it up. And then I had the songs sitting on my desktop. I don't know why I wasn't ready to release them, but when the clock ticked over to 2025, I was like, I have to get rid of these songs, release them, so that I can move on to my next project, because that's already started. So Satellites Grace the Sky with Tumbleweeds. And the reason why I called it that is one night in the middle of the pandemic, I was in my friend's garden. I had one friend, I have more than one friend, but one friend that we saw a lot during the pandemic, and we were sitting in their back garden in France, looking up at the sky, and the sun was still up. You know how it is in France when the sun is up all day long and half the night too. The sun was still up, but it was nighttime. And you could see Elon Musk's satellites that he had released into the sky, and it was bizarre. They were equidistant points of light in the sky, in an arc, moving across. And I just thought, what the hell is happening here? What is happening? What is happening up in the sky? What is happening here on Earth? Those are questions I do ask in my songs. So what is happening? So that's kind of a little bit about what that record is about. The record is gonna be available on Spotify and all of those places that you stream music, and it's gonna be wherever you can find it. I use Spotify still to this day, although a lot of people don't. Maybe I won't next time, but I'm using it now. You can find my record on Spotify. But so that's kind of like why I started this experiment of talking live on TikTok. And I told you earlier, my friend was like, you need to talk about your songwriting process, or maybe talk about running a small record label, or talk about social media, or, different things. And I was thinking about what I wanted to talk about for my first live TikTok, which is this. This is my first live TikTok. I was thinking about it last night. I woke up at like 3:30 in the morning, 4 o'clock maybe, like I always do lately. And I was like, what do I want to talk about? And I decided, you know what I want to talk about? I want to talk about us staying well and healthy and getting enough sleep. That's what I want to talk about right now, is getting enough sleep. Because I think that right now in our world, certainly in the United States, but also reverberating and equally crazy things happening. There's crazy things happening pretty much on most continents in the world right now. I'm very aware of what's happening in the US because I'm American. I'm also French, and I'm a little bit aware of what's happening in France too. Things are topsy-turvy right now, but the biggest offender is happening in the United States, and people are worried and anxious and not sleeping. A lot of people I know are having a really hard time getting enough sleep. And I was thinking, actually, this is not a political statement, this is just a human statement. No matter where you are on the political spectrum, there are wars going on in the world. There are wars that people are engaged in. People are dying, right? And there also are countries who are helping out with the weapons and everything, who are responsible for this. And we're aware of those wars, and hopefully my prayer for you is that you're not in a war zone. But I just want to say, at 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning, it was occurring to me as I was feeling really worried that we are all in a war zone right now in this world. And I think that we can talk about that a little bit. And if you have any thoughts about us all being in a war zone, please feel free to chat. And I don't know, does TikTok have a chat? I don't know. If there's a chat, feel free to talk about it there. I think that there's a battle out there for our attention, for our belief systems, for our money, for sure, for our energy, and for our acquiescence. Is that the word? For our ability to just let things happen. I would say there's a war going on right now. And I think many people, most of us feel it. Many people don't feel it. Like they think really great things are happening right now, but I don't know a lot of those people. So regardless of where you are in the political spectrum, I think it's really important right now to take care of yourself and to take care of your people, because we have to stay well and stay strong because of the war. And otherwise, I would on the best day, on the most ordinary era, I would also say we need to take care of ourselves and we need to take care of our people. But so my comment for today's TikTok is sleep, because I think that's the first thing that can go when you're anxious and worried and feeling like things aren't stable. And I think that you can train yourself to get better sleep. And if you can go and sleep 8 hours, God, 9 hours if you could do it. I haven't done that in years, but if you could go in, get that sleep, wake up refreshed, you're ready the next day to actually use the time and energy that you have for the good and for the purpose that you are here in this life. Our lives are short, even if they look long. They're not. We're here for a limited amount of time, and it's really important to use the time that you have for good and for your good and for your purpose. And so the first thing you need to do is get enough sleep and get good sleep. So all the things, like have a great place to go sleep, have a great comfortable bed, have a place where you feel relaxed, but also where you don't have light streaming in. You want to make sure that you're sleeping in a dark room. If you don't have a dark space, cover your eyes in some manner, cover your ears in some manner. You should feel like you're in the womb, right? Sleeping should be going back to the womb so you can regenerate. So that's the first thing. Then there's the thing about like maybe falling asleep a little bit and then waking up because you really aren't feeling relaxed and you're not feeling safe. So it's very difficult. That's the whole thing. It's difficult to get good sleep when you're not feeling safe, right? So you need to be able to tell your body and tell your mind that you are safe and that you can get into a deep sleep so that you can regenerate and have that. I always say sleep is the best meal of the day, so that you can go in and have that wonderful meal. One thing that you can learn to do, and you probably already do this and already know this, but I just want to remind you, is that you can do different breathing techniques. The the really great and easy to remember breathing technique is to breathe in your nose, hold your breath, and breathe out your mouth. And there are different variations on these numbers, but you can do a 4, 7, 8 breathing pattern. You breathe in your nose to the count of 4, and then you hold your breath to the count of 7, and then you breathe out your mouth to the count of 8. And it's very important that when you breathe out, it's as if you're like fogging a window. Okay? So you do that a handful of times, and there, for many people, they're already asleep after a certain number of times. But that is one way that you can tell your body and you tell your entire system that you're safe and that everything's okay, and you can tumble into sleep. Something that I discovered on my own a few years ago, I'll share this here. I don't know what this is called. I don't know why this works, but I discovered it, and I think there's definitely something to it, and I've shared it with other people, and they do it too. I was having trouble sleeping, and I would envision that I was in the city of Paris, walking down the street. I would picture it perfectly, and I would go downstairs into a jazz bar, which, into a cave, into a beautiful cave, so you're underground, it's dark, it's safe. You're in a jazz bar, and they're showing movies in the jazz bar, and it's super comfortable and relaxed, and you sit down on a sofa, and I picture every single thing, and then I look up at the movie screen, and what they're showing on the movie screen is everything that I see behind my eyes. And when you first close your eyes and you begin to look at what you see little dots and flecks and lights, and you see these sort of patterns, and I'm not allowed to look away. I have to watch the movie. And what happens is the movie starts to turn into little objects. You start to see windows and doors and maybe horizon line. You start to see things and pull things out of the things you're seeing on your eyelids. And what starts to happen is at a certain point, the images that you're seeing start to take form, and suddenly at a certain point you can see it totally clearly, 3D, as if it's right in front of you. It's like inside your brain, and it's at that point you're asleep. So give that one a shot if you understood what I just said, because that definitely works. But a friend of mine was telling me yesterday something he does is he thinks of a word of 4 letters, like star, and then you start with the S, and you think of an object that starts with an S, like sandwich. And what you do is you visualize every single aspect of that sandwich. Smell, taste, what's in it, what does it feel like? You stay there until you have it absolutely committed to memory. You explore all the sandwich. And then you move on to the next letter, T. What starts with T? Truck. So then you do the same thing. You visualize it, you see it, you look at the tires, you look at your sleep. My friend said you never even get to the 4th letter. But there's something about turning off the chatter in your brain and zeroing in on images. And the images take you into that sleep space. So I think I've chattered for enough time for my first ever live TikTok. But so thanks for dropping in. This was kind of fun for me because it's not that hard. It's actually kind of fun to turn on your screen and start talking. But I do want to underscore the reality of the volatile world that we live in. Even if you have a good day and your job's okay and your friends are all right and you've got a new pair of shoes and everything's fine, it is volatile around us. We might not be experiencing it every day, and we can't. It would be too much. My hope and prayer for you is that you stay out of the war zone. And yet, as I just said, we're all in the war zone. So take care of yourselves. Keep experimenting with ways to stay well. Share them with me. I'm going to keep experimenting with ways to use TikTok and to talk about music and creativity and songwriting and painting, which I don't do anymore, but I used to paint, and all the ways that we can stay well through creativity. And I'm going to continue talking about the power of words the power of the things we think, the power of the things we say, the conversations we have, the books we read, the music we listen to. I'm going to keep talking about that. And so I hope you have a great night's sleep tonight. Let me know how it goes, and I'll catch you here next time. Ciao. I wonder how you get out of this thing. I don't even know. Press.